back again with another review, and this is for DJ Donnelly. He wanted me to talk about and review WarGames, 1983 film which stars Matthew Broderick in his debut role. You also have Ali Sheedy and directed by John Badham. Really solid movie. This is another one of those, I finally, watched it all the way through because over the years, WarGames is one of those films that I've seen a little bit of, like bit parts, but never watched it all the way through. I'm glad I was able to, watch this film. And, like I said, it's directed by John Badham. And John Badham, when I look at his work, to me, he's a really good director. I mean, before this, he directed Saturday Night Fever, but he would also go on to direct Blue Thunder, which I believe came out the same year. He also directed Short Circuit. He also directed Stakeout, Bird on a Wire, The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox and James Woods, which is an underrated movie. So, yeah, I'm a fan of John Badham. Underrated director. I know originally, they even talk about this in a documentary on here called Loaded WarGames, which is a good, 45-minute documentary on the movie. How they talked about, Martin Brest. He was brought in to direct the movie, and in fact, it was going to have a much darker tone, but he left over, creative differences, and he would go on to direct, Beverly Hills Cop, which it all worked out. I mean, it all worked out. And this movie still went on to become a hit. I mean, this film made $125 million worldwide on a $12 million budget. So, yeah, I mean, this film made some bank. And, WarGames, again, it's a really solid movie. Now, talking about the plot real quick. So you have the main character, David, played by Matthew Broderick, and his character's a computer whiz that can break into different systems. And even in the beginning, you see his character break into the school system to change his grades, which is funny because he would do the same thing in Ferris Bueller. So, what did Ferris Bueller leave a previous life and had to change his identity to Ferris Bueller? Is it the same character? I don't know, but yeah, it's funny to think about. And one day on the computer, he decides to play a game of global thermonuclear war. And doing so, he taps into the U.S. Nuclear arsenal and initiates a World War III. Like, that it could happen, and the government gets involved. What's going on here? Someone has tapped into our system. And so they arrest, Matthew Broderick. They bring him in, and they have to figure out what's going on and, stop World War III from happening. And that's the plot here. But the cast here, again, Matthew Broderick, it was his debut role, and you could definitely tell. I mean, watching this, and I'm like, man, Matthew Broderick is really young here. The film is almost 40 years old, and I think he's going to be 60 this year. So at this time, he was probably 20, 21. But you could definitely, tell he's coming into his own here. I would say it's a good performance. It's not, for me, a great performance. For me, I think by the time Ferris Bueller's Day Off, comes around, he, at that time, and, with many more films after that, The Freshman, which is a good movie, with Marlon Brando and, many other films, but, I think, with Matthew Broderick, it took a little bit time to, kind of, find that, I'm trying to figure out the word, again, this is his debut role here, and this is the film that got him noticed, but I would say performances, I think he would get better, and I'm not saying that as a knock on Matthew Broderick here, but, you know, maybe it's because, you know, being this young and so forth, and I think he would definitely learn more as an actor, you know, especially when you get to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and because maybe that's a comedy and this is more of like a cyber thriller, you know, and, you know, I do like him in other movies. I mean, again, you know, I mentioned The Freshman. I do like him in Godzilla, the cable guy, which is funny. So maybe I think, you know, I think he works better in comedies. And again, this is more of a thriller. But, you know, again, Matthew Broderick is still good here. You also have Ali Sheedy as the girlfriend. And, you know, of course, you know, she would go on to be in The Breakfast Club. Good actress. And I like her. And I think it was because of this film that got her The Breakfast Club and many other films. You also have Dabney Coleman, another good actor, and I think he's still around, but he was good here in the film. You also have John Wood. You also have Barry Corbin as the general of NORAD. And so, you know, the cast is really good. Solid direction from John Badham. And I do kind of wonder, you know, what could have been if the original director had stayed on, and a little bit more about that. So, you know, Martin Brest, he was fired after 12 days of shooting. You know, he had a disagreement, grade differences, and, you know, several of the scenes that were shot by Brest remain in the final film. Badham had said that Brest had taken a somewhat dark approach to the story and the way it was shot. It was like Broderick and Sheedy were doing some Nazi undercover thing, you know, so it was my job to make it seem like they were having fun and that it was exciting. So again, Martin Brest, you know, he went on to direct Beverly Hills Cop, and I think it worked out for the best. But you know, you wonder what could have been there. But you know, John Badham took over, and to me, he made a good movie and solid direction again. But the production value here, I liked, you know, the whole thing with, you know, NORAD, and you have all these computers on display, and they talk about these different levels of DEF CON. You know, if we go to DEF CON 1, I believe it means World War III. And, you know, especially when you get into the third act of the film, you know, where things start to go haywire and they're on the verge of war, and Matthew Broderick is brought in to, you know, stop, and basically he's at battle with the system, you know, playing these different games, you know, like tic-tac-toe and such, and you get all these cool visuals that, you know, happen on the screen. A lot of, you know, cool flashes, and, you know, a lot of cool stuff, you know, that happens in the third act. You know, so I really liked, again, the production value here. And, you know, the score by Arthur Rubinstein, you know, I thought it was okay. I mean, you know, he's worked with John Badham. He would actually work with John Badham some more. And I think he did the score for Stakeout. And I thought it was okay here. But, you know, again, it was okay. Now, in regards to other little side notes here, the writers of the film, they would become friends with hackers and security experts while doing research for WarGames. And I believe the same writers would also go on to write Sneakers, which is a really good film. I need to get that film on Blu-ray. But that also delves into the world of hacking and, you know, bypassing systems. Yeah, Sneakers, if you haven't seen, go check it out. Really good cast. But that would be like a cool, you know, double to see on the big screen. You know, like this film and Sneakers, or, you know, this film and Hackers. You know, again, that would be a great double. Now, if you were to ask me, you know, which is my favorite when it comes to, you know, this type of film, I mean, if I talk about WarGames, Sneakers, Hackers, you know, The Net, which people don't talk about much, but that's a good movie. I would say, you know, I prefer those films more. You know, like Sneakers, I prefer a little bit more than this film. Hackers, you know, Hackers to me is a favorite of mine. And, The Net with Sandra Bullock, that's an underrated flick. I would say, I prefer those more, but this is still a good movie. But also, in regards to other little side notes here, the film was shown to President Ronald Reagan at Camp David in the summer of '83, and he reportedly loved the film, but also took on board the message about the dangers of an outside influence affecting the U.S. military via computer misuse. And in 1984, he started proposing a draft to make such an act a criminal offense, if I can talk right, and for the military to start investigating potential weaknesses as depicted in the movie. So yeah, Ronald Reagan was a fan of the film. But at the end of the day, WarGames is a really solid movie. Good performances here, from the cast. I think John Badham brings solid direction. I know John Badham, I think he even mentions, that this is his favorite film. But, I would say for me, when it comes to John Badham, I prefer other films, like, Blue Thunder, which came out the same year. And I love, Short Circuit, Stakeout, Bird on a Wire, The Hard Way. But, he still does a great job here. I mean, again, John Badham is a really good director. And, again, I like the actors here in this movie. And again, the score is okay. But I really enjoyed the production value, especially of NORAD. And I really love, the third act. It's a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, so WarGames, again, really solid movie. And has some good features. The documentary up here, Loaded WarGames, it's about 45 minutes. And you have a couple of featurettes. So yeah, a good DVD. But that's it for my review of WarGames. Thank you to DJ Donnelly for requesting it. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.